Deanne?
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Okay, so since I forgot last time and I have COVID brain, should I read our virtual meeting script before I do anything?
I think what you have done is the call to order. Then you read the script.
Okay. That's what I will do then. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just so everybody's aware, we do have the YouTube up and live at the moment too, and obviously the WebEx is working, so just FYI.
Okay, I see. I'm not seeing Sue or Nancy back yet.
Yep, you're correct. My eyes open. I'm sure they're coming.
Okay. Jesse, just to make sure when we get to the discussion items, do I go to Troy for the first one, or do you want that one and then you pass it on? It's the principal.
That one, you can just pass it right to Dr. Bales. That's fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you. Just wanted to make sure.
Sounds good. Yep, I got the other two.
Okay. Okay, it's 7, so. I mean, we do have quorum. Should I?
I think we should start, Mrs. Greenberg.
Julie, do you realize that you're not in as Julie Bacon, but as I?
I don't know why that is. I'm trying to fix that, but I can't find how to fix it. So
I think you would have to go out and come back in to do it. So
yeah, I'm probably not going to do that.
Yeah, I think. Okay, here comes Dr. Skidmore.
I'll just go by IE Bacon.
Yes, that is Bacon. All right, are we taping?
Yeah, if you're ready to go, I will put us live. Yep, there we go.
Okay. Am I okay? You did great. Great, thank you very much. It is 7:01 on August 20, and I am calling this second regular meeting of the 107th school year of the PV Governing Board to order. I'd like to just read something that we have been reading for our virtual meetings. I'd like to welcome you to the regular meeting of the PV Schools Governing Board, and the following will be the rules we'll be using for our meetings on a virtual platform. Although members of the board are not gathered in a central physical location, we do have a quorum in attendance at this meeting by video conference or telephone call. We are meeting by use of WebEx software application, which allows for members of the public to view and or listen to this meeting. And additionally, the meeting is being streamed live on YouTube. If you need accommodations, please contact Deanne Chisman at 602-449-2298. Due to the virtual format of the meeting, we will be unable to include call to the public. We have been encouraging members of the public wishing to have comments read into the record at our meetings. And so for our next meeting, to send written comments to the governing board via email at governingboard@pvschools.net by 10 a.m. Thursday, September 3rd. That's for our next meeting. Submitted comments from the public may be read during the corresponding place on the agenda. As with the traditional call to the public, there can be no discussion of any such comments from the public. All other meeting procedures will adhere to board-adopted procedures to the extent practicable. And a video recording from this meeting will be available to the public, I believe, by Monday, August 24. We apologize in advance for any unforeseen difficulties and ask for and appreciate your patience as we navigate unprecedented conditions, although I think we're getting better at this. And if Dr. Welsh can put our flag up one more time, I will ask that you join me in the pledge once it's there. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. May I have roll call, please?
Dr. Skidmore,
Here.
Mrs. Matura,
Here.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Here.
Mrs. Case,
Here.
Mrs. Bacon.
Here.
Thank you very much. Approval of agenda, Dr. Welsh.
Thank you, President Greenberg. Items approved by consent will not come up for discussion during the meeting, but will be approved when the agenda is adopted. This is possible because members of the governing board receive the agenda along with backup materials at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and have time to review and consider all items. Prior to the agenda being adopted, members of the governing board may ask that an item be removed from the consent agenda and brought to the floor for discussion at the appropriate place on the agenda. I would like to offer the agenda as presented.
Thank you very much. Does any member of the governing board wish to remove anything from the consent agenda or move anything else around? Seeing none, Dr. Skidmore, may I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Governing board statements, Dr. Skidmore.
None. Thank you, President Greenberg.
Thank you, Dr. Skidmore. Mrs. Matura.
Yes, I just wanted to say tonight, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone is doing so many more roles than they traditionally do this year. So we have families at home that are watching little ones and working from home and navigating all of this technology. We have teachers who are now teaching online and dealing with tech issues and playing IT department. We have our staff who are working with kids who are on site. Everyone's doing something different and extra right now. And so just my appreciation to everyone. I also wanted to let the public know that we do read your emails. We're getting hundreds. We read them. We are taking that. It's something we think about constantly, that we definitely are reading them. There's so much of a volume that you may not receive a specific reply based on your specific questions or your comments, but we are reading all of them. And I wanted people to be assured of that. And I also wanted to let everyone know that we really want our kids back in school. That is something that we all feel, that kids learn better in school. We want them back. Everyone wants to see, the life brought back to the school. So it is something that we are very much looking forward to, and we are excited to see when the data is moving in the right direction. And with that being said, we definitely are using data to get there. And so I appreciate that, but I also want people to know that we strongly do want the kids back. So it's something that we are very happy when we see the metrics, the benchmarks and the numbers moving in the right direction, and that we definitely are pulling to get our kids back in class sooner than later. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Matura. Mrs. Case? You are still muted, Nance.
Oh, there it is.
There we go. Nope, you're muted again. There we go.
All right, here, I got you. Hold on. There you go.
Thank
Don't
you.
touch anything. We're good.
Okay, thank you. Dittos to what Mrs. Matura said. Um, I have taught children for years, and in person learning how to read to me is just vital. I don't want to lose any more minutes than necessary to keep people safe. I want to get back to school as soon as we can. And I would just ask for the community to do everything they can to keep the numbers down so we can get back to help the numbers come down so we can get back to school. And I want to just give kudos to teachers who are doing something very, very hard, and students who are doing something very hard, and parents who are doing something very hard. Teaching online is not an easy situation. I have talked to teachers who are spending hours trying to just work out the technology, to download things, to teach a parent, and sometimes not an English speaking parent, how to do it. And they have spent hours taking care of things. And I just want to thank everyone for doing the best they can. And I hope learning going on. And children, please read. Do everything you can to keep reading going, because you don't want to get behind in what you need to be learning in the grade you are in currently. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Case. Mrs. Bacon?
Well, honestly, we don't talk to each other between meetings. It's honestly, we don't. But my comments are very similar to what Mrs. Matura said and what Mrs. Case said. I want kids in school as soon as possible. I just don't want to be responsible for kids getting sick and family members getting sick. So as soon as we can do this and do it safely, I want to do it. And I know that virtual learning is not optimal. We all know that. It's not optimal for teaching. It's not optimal for learning. It's not optimal for parents working. All of those things are well known to us, and the burden of thinking about 30,000 students is heavy. So we take it really seriously. So please know that we're doing everything we can, and we really. I know that when teachers are talking to students, they're saying, wear masks, because that's how we can get back to school. Do the things that we need to do to get you back here. I know teachers are craving being in classrooms with students when it's safe. So those are just some things that I just wanted to say. And I appreciate all of our employees, every single one who's working really, really hard, from Dr. Welsh to everyone else, all 4,000 of them. I really appreciate all the work that they're doing. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bacon. I have a few comments, and then I will probably sound very similar to everybody who's gone before me. I do want to read something that I wrote to make sure that I say this the way I need to say it, which is last time at our meeting on August 6th, we approved a contract for online classroom courseware. And in the course of the discussion, I had asked some questions and I expressed some concerns about the contract, about the use of the courseware. And after the meeting, I was made aware that my comments and questions appeared to be very negative and directed at the vendor. And that had not been my intent at all. But as I tried to replay the comments in my mind, I realized that it didn't matter if I knew what I was saying, if I was not clear, and I had created that impression that had been expressed in the messages received. And I was horrified I had done so. And I contacted the vendor the next day, offered my apologies, which she graciously accepted, as well as an explanation, which she understood. And I'm going to take just a few moments to offer both to all of you as well. We currently use the courseware from the vendor for our homebound students. And at one point, a comment was made that our parents and students love it. And as thrilled as I am that it's working well for some of these students, I've unfortunately heard from several that it's not necessarily universally the case. and that many of our homebound students have had a more difficult time with the transition to and working with the format. I felt that needed to be acknowledged, as I believe did another board member. However, I have not been led to believe that this is due to the vendor or the coursework, but to the change in the format, as well as the difficulty many of our homebound students have with just physically handling that format. So it wasn't a comment about the vendor, it was just how some students are having more difficulty dealing with it. I also expressed concerns about some aspects of the contract which will be used to support PV Online. And for many years, PV Online has been a point of pride for our district. We were pioneers in Arizona in developing an online distance learning program. And for many years, we've been told we've been building PV Online into a robust program for all grades. And while I'm well aware that our high school offerings have been very diverse and mirror quite a bit of what's available in our classrooms, and that makes sense because up to this year, our high school students have been among the largest number of users. It's just been very frustrating to me to find out that that's not where we are with the total program, and that we are having to supplement to the extent that we are with coursework that was not of our creation from our teachers. Now, this has literally nothing to do with the vendor, and I appreciate and I'm really glad that we have a partner we are working with who can provide this support, particularly given the changes wrought by the pandemic. I've just been very frustrated that we need that support at all. During the discussion 2 weeks ago, I allowed that frustration to come forward. And the result was that I was not clear in my remarks, and I created a perception that I was talking poorly about a vendor. I am extraordinarily sorry for this, and quite honestly, those of you who know me, I remain mortified that I did this. I hope you will accept my apology. I pledge that I will continue to work harder and be as clear as possible moving forward. We did get an update on our PV Online numbers, and quite honestly, we have exploded in PV Online. So I do want to reiterate, I very much appreciate that we have a partner that we are working with and are able to provide the content that we need to support all of our learners. I want to thank, as everybody else has, all of our teachers, all of our staff, all of our parents and students, because this is just a monumental undertaking. And, you know, I've heard so many amazing stories. I know there are some glitches. I know there are some, you know, and not every moment is a great moment, but I think in general, I think we can all be extraordinarily proud of the work everyone's doing, including our students, and the creativity that has come in. I know I've seen posts about, you know, meditation breaks and other things like that, that I'm not sure we have placed in the classroom all the time. So it's lovely that it's happening in our virtual classrooms as well. So really it's, yeah, a couple weeks in, it sounds like we're doing yeoman's job in every classroom and every school. And I know, as somebody talked about, we've been talking about the numbers moving forward, or excuse me, moving in positive direction. Dr. Welsh shared the ones that were updated just 3 hours ago on the Maricopa County Public Health Department site. And we are definitely moving more into yellow, and we were red prior to this. So that's a step in the right direction. And I think we are all looking forward to getting to the green. I don't know if that's our new motto, but getting to the green and hoping we stay there and get everybody back into a classroom. And thank you for indulging me a little bit here. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Welsh for superintendent's comments.
Yeah, thank you, President Greenberg. And so just a couple of things here. And for those who may not have been with us for the study session, I do want to hit on a couple of things just to make sure that I highlight. As we talked about earlier this evening, we began providing our on-site support for our families in need. That started Monday. We had that at 5 locations. As I shared earlier this evening, visited all those sites. We have solid procedures in place. Again, I want to thank our community education team for their work in doing Getting that all set up, it was a huge lift in a very short amount of time. And again, I know we said it earlier tonight, but again, thank you to all of our ESP employees who are also helping out with the program. And that includes our transportation employees from transportation who have been on site helping students. And as I shared earlier this evening, now that those sites are up and running, we're working through applications that came in late or for students who didn't have targeted service needs to make sure that everybody who's requesting access are able to get accommodated. I also want to recognize that, with the discussion we had earlier regarding athletics, and I think Ms. Matura touched on this earlier, we have gotten a tremendous amount of feedback this week about reopening and certainly about athletics. And I just want to acknowledge that and echo the same sentiments that I appreciate all the feedback that we've been getting on that. And I understand the desire of families to be able to return to practice and competitions. I too have read many a personal story regarding the importance athletics plays in our children's lives. And as I shared earlier, I remain hopeful that our health data continues to progress in the way that we're seeing it, that we see that decline in cases and positivity so that we can safely return to practices and competitions in sports. A couple of important things that are coming up or that are going on. Next week, we are hosting 2 virtual public meetings to discuss proposed attendance boundary changes for elementary 33. Those are on Tuesday, the 25th and Thursday, the 27th, beginning at 6:30. And again, although there will not be a physical location for members of the public to attend these meetings, you can join the meeting much like tonight, either via YouTube or WebEx or even by phone. And you can find out more details at our website at pvschools.net/ES33. Due to the virtual format of the meetings, members of the public who wish to submit comments to the governing board can use a public input form that is on that webpage. And we have already been seeing a very good number of comments coming in for that meeting already. And we will be reading through all of those additional comments to help inform our conversations and discussion about those boundaries. Just another reminder to families that if you have not done so already, please make sure to go on and complete the annual update for your emergency information. It's very easy to do. I did it as a parent. Just go to portal.pvschools.net, and that way we can make sure we know where you are and that you get the information that you need. I'd also like to share, again, in the efforts of keeping COVID beat, that the Maricopa County Department of Public Health is offering free immunizations to preschool to 12th grade students this Saturday, the 29th, from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock, just down the road from where I am right here at Greenway Middle School. If you're looking for more info, you can find that on our website at pvschools.net/reopening. And finally, I'd just like to remind everybody and share that September is Suicide Prevention Month. And coming up next month, we do have one meeting in between now and then, but September 10th is Suicide Prevention Day. So I would just encourage, particularly in these difficult times, that if you or someone you know needs help, to please reach out to Teen Lifeline at 602-248-8336. And as a reminder, that number is included on the back of our ID badges for all of our middle school and high school students. So if you've got those student IDs, it's right on there. And that concludes my comments for this evening.
Okay, I think I'm off. Thanks. Thank you, Dr. Walsh. And my mute button is tricky today. Next on the agenda, we have 3 items for approval. The first will be discussion of the Arizona School Boards Association Draft 2021 Political Agenda. I hope everybody had the opportunity to review it. I'm just going to go through and I went through and compared it to what was approved for 2020, so the current political agenda. There are not a dramatic number of changes, although there is obviously a brand new section devoted to COVID-19. But just so you know what the changes were in the continuing sections, they have added a note in the revise the school finance formula. So this is under adequately and equitably fund district schools to at least the national median per pupil funding. This is the first section. Under item 2, they have added D, which is revise the funding formula to add funding for student mental health and well-being initiatives. I think that's certainly one that we have gotten behind ourselves. In that same section, they have not dropped anything, I believe, but in that same section, they have slightly revised and updated numbers 5 and 6, index district additional assistance funding for inflation. That was reworded from last year, and updated the next one about provide funding for new space before existing schools exceed their maximum capacity and become overcrowded, and provide dedicated and flexible ongoing maintenance funding, including building replacement, advocate for capacity standards that reflect the design of instructional space. So they've added the insertion about dedicated and flexible ongoing maintenance funding. Towards the end, number 15, they have added in, it had read equitably invest in technology for all students, and they have added in and reliable internet access, because as we all know, that is a need throughout the state. And then they have added a new section 17, which I'm actually happy to say is kind of an amalgam of both of the proposed new items we submitted as a district back in May. So new item 17 is provide funding for districts to improve student achievement by addressing social emotional learning needs, and create training programs for school staff in cultural proficiency and responsiveness. So if you remember back, this is literally the two we did, and they put it together as one. So I think we had an impact on this year's with this upcoming political agenda. In the second section on preserve and strengthen local control, they actually dropped 3 of the bullet points that had been there or in the current 2020 agenda. And I suspect it's just for length, and because some of these areas are ones that I think they've reached a point where they feel they're, shall we say, bigger fish to fry on the political agenda. But they did add a new amendment, or excuse me, a new item that says amend current statute to allow school board members to use the equal system in addition to in-person signatures to appear on the ballot. I know that was one that I contacted Ann O'Brien, the president-elect who chairs the Ledge Committee, personally, and I believe other school board members had. I'm not, totally sure whether other districts had, but I think that's one that we can all agree is necessary. The third section on improve outcomes for all students, I did not see any changes in terms of what had been there for the current one. And the final section, the final section of the current agenda on require public accountability for taxpayer dollars spent on education. They dropped one item again. I suspect it was for length, and because they then added an entire section, are recommending the addition of entire section with 11 items on COVID-19 response. So I don't think I need to go through all of it. I hope everybody had a chance to, but I think these are all things we've talked about. We know board members have been talking about, since we've gone into shutdown in March, issues like suspending testing and moratoriums on letter grades, things like that. So does anybody have any questions? I can answer them to the best of my ability, although I was not in the meeting. And if not, I can entertain a motion to approve our support for the agenda. So when it comes time for me as the delegate or Mrs. Matura as the alternate delegate, we have our direction from the board on approving the items that have been presented. So does anybody have any questions or comments? I'm not seeing anybody. So Dr. Skidmore, may I have a motion?
So move, and thank you to you, both you and Mrs. Matura, for serving and representing us well at the Arizona School Boards Association convention, or whenever it is. I think it's in September. Been there once, won't go back again.
Okay, yes, at the Delegate Assembly, which actually has been moved to October now. And Mrs. Chisholm, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Dr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Matura,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Case,
I saw a thumbs
Aye.
up there.
Mrs. Bacon,
Aye.
Thank you. By a vote of 5-0, unanimously approved the item at 7:28 on August 20. Next on the agenda is ratification of vouchers. Dr. Skidmore, may I have a motion, please?
So move.
And Mrs. Chisholm, since you're there, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Matura,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Case,
Aye.
Mrs. Bacon,
Abstain.
Thank you. By a vote of 4-0 with one abstention, we have approved the ratification of vouchers at 7:29 on August 20. Next on the agenda is acceptance of gifts and donations. We want to thank, of course, all of our donors, but I'd especially like to highlight and thank the Hidden Hills PTSA for donating $1,200 for a drinking fountain for school use. And we also, I want to thank, we get donations such as the one I'll announce or discuss, which is the American Express Foundation Employee Matching Fund. So we do get matching funds from employers. And I'd like to say that this time, 12 schools received, and I apologize, it's monsooning. I hope you can't hear my windows going. But 12 different schools received donations to the principal's discretionary fund from the American Express Foundation Employee Matching Funds. And in those totaled $1,662. So thank you again to all our donors. And Dr. Skidmore, may we have a motion to accept the gifts and donations?
So move.
And Mrs. Chisholm, may we have roll call, please?
Dr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Matura,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Case,
Aye.
Mrs. Bacon.
Aye.
By a vote of 5-0, we have unanimous approval at 7:31 on August 20. Thank you very much. We now have a handful of items for discussion. First is presentation of the 2019-20 aggregate performance classifications for principals and teachers, and I will turn it over to Bales.
President Greenberg, Governing Board, Dr. Welsh, Cabinet, and guests, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to share a little bit more with you. In compliance with Arizona revised statutes, we present the aggregate performance classifications of the Paradise Valley Unified School District principals and teachers for the 1920 school year. Looking back, the data was provided in your backup material, but a couple of highlights I'd like to include. 48% of our teachers were rated highly effective. That's up from 46% the year prior. 52% were rated effective, down from 54%. Of the remaining teacher employees, 2 were identified as developing and no one was rated ineffective. However, both teachers identified as developing were on plans of improvement, and by the end of the year, they chose to resign. For our principals, 10 were ranked highly effective and 32 as effective. 0 were ranked as developing and 0 ineffective. You may recall that this past year was the year of a new and very robust instrument for evaluating principals. Their instrument also includes the same student achievement component as our teachers. As required by statute, we're just presenting information tonight, so no vote is necessary. I'd be happy to answer any questions for you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bales. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm not seeing everybody, but since nobody has jumped in, it sounds like we are good to go. Thank you very much, Dr. Bales.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is consideration of revisions to policy IHA, Basic Instructional Program, and I will turn that over to Dr. Welsh.
Thank you, President Greenberg. Tonight, this is one of two items that we have that were part of our ASBA policy advisory that came out very recently. Both of these actually pertain to changes that occurred as a result of bills that were adopted during the 2020 legislative session. This policy, IHA, which is our first read, incorporates the new addition that September 25th every year would be observed as the Sandra Day O'Connor Civics Celebration Day, which is not a legal holiday, but it would be observed in our schools and for the purposes of celebrating and pertaining to additional instruction in civics on that date. So again, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the recommended revisions based upon that legislation.
Mrs. Greenberg, I don't know if you can
Yes.
see me.
I can't, but I'll toss it over to you.
Okay, thank you. Just a quick question. So September 25th, does that go into effect this year? So this September, I mean, in a month, we'll be seeing this in place, or I wasn't sure if there was a delay on that.
Yes, I believe so. If my memory is holding correctly, that is in effect currently.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Bacon?
So if that's in a month, doesn't really give people a whole lot of time. I'm assuming the curriculum department is working to help teachers with lesson plans and activities and so forth.
Yes, I don't know if Dr. Corson wants to chime in at all, but I know it's something obviously on our radar since it is coming fast and furious at this point.
Good evening, Mrs. Bacon. Yes, we are behind the scenes working on that and working with our schools and teachers to create some meaningful activities that are relevant to celebrate on that particular day.
Thank you. I know that the teachers will appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Matura?
So I just wanted to point out something, because obviously there's a lot of work that goes into preparing new curriculum and getting it out to the teachers and using that, and wondering if this is anything that was funded as part of the new requirement, or was this just kind of put out there and schools are now paying to put this in place?
Great question, Ms. Matura. This is not anything that came with any funding. If you recall, this was an item at CLN that we were somewhat neutral on, and that was partially because of that fact.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments? I think so. I just have a quick comment. Dr. Welsh and I were talking about this, and I made a suggestion that perhaps one of the items we might be considering looking at is the fact that the civics test, the citizenship civics test, is now part of the graduation requirement. So, you know, perhaps spending a little bit more time on this day, you know, focused on some of those points of the test might be a good way, at least, to see how that works this time, given the shortened time frame we are working on to implement this. So, and then maybe get a few more kids passing that test pretty quickly.
Yep, and just as a reminder too, we typically administer that test in students' 8th grade year. So I think that's a great idea for you know, some of our middle school kids in particular, or you know, maybe even some of our high school students that had not met that requirement, perhaps because they moved from another state that didn't have that requirement, so that they can get caught up on that one.
Yeah. So I think we have an opportunity to get very creative here, which I think will be great. And then last on the agenda is consideration of revisions to policy KB, parent involvement in education. And again, Dr. Welsh.
Yes, thank you again, President Greenberg. Once again, this is a recommended change from ASBA. that is pertaining to changes that occurred as a result of legislation that was passed during the previous session. This would change KB. Again, this is first read, and this is based on a new requirement that makes sure that the Department of Education needs to post and establish a place on its website for a statutory handbook of parental rights, and requires districts to prominently post this on their website, so that way we will have a link to that handbook on our website and adopt that into policy. And so with that, again, I'd be happy to take any questions on that.
So does anybody have any questions for Dr. Welsh? This one seems pretty straightforward. Okay, those were both first read, so we do not take any action on them. I see that we are at the end of our agenda for this meeting. Don't see anybody else has anything they want to jump in with. So Dr. Skidmore, may I have a motion? Well, I just want to remind everybody our next regular board meeting is September 3rd, but we do have the two public meetings on boundaries for elementary 33 next week. And Dr. Welsh gave that information, but it's all on the website as well for anybody who'd like to join us. And Dr. Skidmore, may I have a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
And Ms. Chisholm, why don't we go ahead and take roll call vote?
Dr. Skidmore,
Aye.
Mrs. Matura,
Aye.
Mrs. Greenberg,
Aye.
Mrs. Case,
Hi.
Mrs. Bacon.
Aye.
Thank you very much. By a unanimous vote, we are adjourned at 7:39 on August 20. Thank you all. See you all soon, even if virtually.
That's right. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.